Will Texas Tech take care of business? Could have big ramifications for the Big 12, okay? Because the love for the Big 12 from TV and, of all places, ESPN, not done at just this week sending College GameDay to Cincinnati and Utah. There is even more love coming from ESPN of all places. Yes, you heard me. ESPN of all places. Another week with more ESPN love, okay? As I mentioned, you've got College GameDay coming to Utah Cincy this week. Big story. Cincinnati has turned into now, I think, like an official, legitimate, bona fide college football-wide story, which is why GameDay wants to do it. Now, if you also say, well, John, it's a week of games, week, W-E-A-K, week, W-E-E-K, of games. Yes, okay, fair, but it's not like they were bad games. They had options. They could do Texas Vandy. All right. Vandy, I know they've already beaten that story to death on GameDay, but they could have done that. Who's Tennessee playing? That was one of the other ones, whoever Tennessee was playing this week. Penn State, Ohio State obviously totally flopped, and that's where I'm sure at the beginning of the year they thought they were going to be this week, and that did not come to fruition. Miami, SMU, you could have done that. SMU now being 5-3 doesn't really help. Oklahoma, Tennessee. Yeah, that's the other one that you could have done. But they've obviously covered some of those stories already. So editorial wise, I understand the decision to go with Cincinnati, even if it's not your favorite thing in the world to do. And I get that you would say, well, this feels like hey, we're just going to toss the Big 12 a bone kind of a week for College GameDay. Like, sort of like how, in the past they've done the North Dakota State thing, right? Or go to an FCS game or Division II or something like that when they have a week where there's not like this big eye-popping game that's standing out. Yeah, it does feel a little bit of that ilk, That's kind of where things are right now, unfortunately, for the Big 12 when it comes to how ESPN treats them. But next week is different. Next week would not be like toss the Big 12 a bone because there's like absolutely nothing else out there, and we just have a bunch of games that are kind of in the same category. Like, if Texas Tech wins, BYU's on a bye. If Texas Tech wins, man, you go look at that schedule for next week. It legitimately looks like the biggest game of the week on the slate. And that's one I think even SEC Big Ten homers would have a hard time arguing with, okay? And ESPN seems to already know it because we got this week. Shout out to Greg, who threw this on Twitter. And there was a video. Somebody at one point had tweeted an actual video where I did hear the soundbite of Reese Davis saying this. Now it seems to have disappeared. It was showing me that the tweet is deleted. So I don't know, but I did see the video. Reese Davis on ESPN this week said, quote, "I don't want to give away secrets, but I might be stocking up on tortillas in the next couple of weeks." In the context of teasing that College GameDay could be headed next week to Lubbock, Texas, to do Texas Tech and BYU. So that's crazy to me to think about. We went from literally everybody kind of reaching the point of critical mass with ESPN, with GameDay, like, man, this is just never going to happen. They're never going to go do a Big 12 game, to 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row? Come on, man. Let me pull up this schedule for you so that you can look. I will show to you that next week, if you think I'm being a Big 12 homer, I will show to you that next week it makes sense. It stands to reason that this is the biggest game of the week on the schedule. All right. I'll even use ESPN.com here. I guess I can't totally do it that way. You know what? I hate it when it does this. Okay. We'll do it like that. So Saturday, Indiana, Penn State could have been a big game, but Penn State is totally tanked. Oregon, Iowa, maybe the best candidate on this list to go against Texas Tech and BYU. But, come on. Who really thinks that Oregon, Iowa is drawing you a ton of juice there? Georgia at Mississippi State, had Mississippi State pulled out a couple of these games that they should have had, maybe that means more. It doesn't. There you see. BYU, Texas Tech. You could have borderline top 10 matchup, depending on where Texas Tech would be ranked if they win this week. A&M, Mizzou. If Mizzou had not lost to Vanderbilt and had not lost Bo Perbula, second quarterback that's out for the year now for the Tigers, Mizzou with a third-string quarterback that now has lost a little bit of juice against Texas A&M, you're probably not going to do that one, but maybe. I mean, I guess that maybe is the best one there. LSU, Bama, Brian Kelly's fired now. And then Navy, Notre Dame, that will be a good game. That's a cool one, but Notre Dame with 2 losses already. Navy, you see what I mean, right? You're really going to argue that that's bigger than BYU, Texas Tech? BYU, Texas Tech is not even that. That is a game that does transcend being just a Big 12 story. I would certainly make the case. BYU, Texas Tech obviously has huge college football playoff ramifications. It's also BYU is unbeaten still here at this point, late in the year. Once again, second straight year, they have become a story that they're doing this again. Bear Bachmeier is a story. I saw Gus Johnson this week. I didn't know that Gus Johnson does this, but he highlights one player a week as like his, I forget what it's called, his like it guy or something like that. It was Bear Bachmeier, right? Like Bear Bachmeier. People are taking notice of that, how crazy of a story that is. You got this kind of Tim Tebow lookalike in Bear Bachmeier making waves as a true freshman. And then Texas Tech has been a national story. I mean, if it's about talent for you, Tech has the talent because they went out and bought it in the portal. That's been a national story. You've got a chance to combine both of those into one for like a Big 12 game of the year, and your competition is like Navy, Notre Dame, and hobbled Mizzou against Texas A&M. Like it is the best game of the week next week if Tech wins. If Tech does not win, then I think you're not very likely to get that. People will kind of be jumping off the Texas Tech story train if they have a second Big 12 loss now. So I put all that out there. I show you all those games to show you this is not like BYU homers out there saying, hey, College GameDay will be at the game next week. If it, no, like 1, Reese Davis actually said that. Okay. And 2, go look at the list yourself and tell me where College GameDay would go. And I get the cynicism. It is well warranted. It is warranted to have cynicism about, well, John, they would just say to hell with it. We'll go to the SEC and we'll do Texas A&M, Mizzou. We'll covering stories, covering Texas A&M being unbeaten this late in the year. It's a story, even if it's at Mizzou, and Mizzou's on a third string quarterback, whatever. I get the cynicism. I don't think they could pass that up next week. I think they would. I think they'd be all over that. Those are definitely the 2 best and biggest stories in the Big 12. Cincinnati is a story, and they're getting their coverage this week, and I am very happy for that. But the 2 best and biggest stories in the Big 12 this year are definitely Texas Tech and BYU. A lot of it has to do, obviously, BYU being unbeaten, true freshman phenom quarterback, and then Texas Tech, the money in the portal and everything that's been covered ad nauseum already, right? I think everybody understands that. So you'd get a chance to hit all of that. And think about that. In the span of 2 weeks, you could suddenly have ESPN covering the 3 biggest stories in the Big 12, just bam, bam, bam. Gotta love that.